Right, welcome to the fifth video. So this is going to be the second part of what's going to be a three-part series, analyzing a bit of symbolism and going over some verses, which I believe both are pointing towards our potential departure being at the third quarter phase of the next full moon. I'll go into my reasoning for that. I've gone into it a bit more in the previous video, but uh, for this one, I'm going to be analyzing a bit of different symbolism just to reinforce why I believe it is the first blood moon of 2025 as opposed to the second blood moon of 2025. As you'll recall from the first video, there is symbolism in a lot of predictive programming pointing towards both blood moons of 2025. However, I think uh, any symbolism pointing to the latter blood moon is essentially just there to throw us off, and our departure will be much earlier in 2025. So that's just my thoughts. But before I get into anything, I'm just going to go over a quick and simple gospel here. John chapter 3, verse 16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. And that's all you have to do. All you have to do is believe in Christ's sacrifice on the cross. It doesn't matter how good of a person you are, how often you go to church, and there's no cosmic equation of good things in your life you've done to bad things that is going to result in a favorable salvation. No, that's not how it works. He's done everything for you already, and all you have to do is believe. And that's quite a difficult thing to do for a lot of people, even though it's a free gift. But that's all you have to do. All you have to do is believe. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at here is a bit of symbolism, and we're pretty well just going to be analyzing like this one still frame from iPad Goat here. So the first thing I want to go over is why exactly is symbolism important. You'll find some people within the Christian community which will tell you you're looking into this kind of satanic symbolism, and instead you should just be reading the gospel. But I think there's a reason why this is here, why this is being shown. It's twofold for the enemy. I think a large part of it is just kind of making fun of people. Like you have most people go to the movies and they're being shown all this symbolism, but they have no idea they're being shown it. I think within the Freemason community, this is being called. I'll just call that the Brotherhood, so I don't get censored next time. But I think within that community, it's called revelation of the method, which is they have to reveal their plans to us, otherwise it's impinging on our free will. It's some sort of hoopty goop like that. But that's pretty much the essence of it. But I think it's very similar to the story of Job in the Bible in the Old Testament, how the devil had to go and ask God's permission before giving hardships or taking things away from Job. So I think this is essentially the same thing in that although the devil has his plan, this is part of his deal. He has to reveal his plans to us for the ones that are watching, so that the ones who are paying attention are not surprised by what's happening, and they know exactly where they are in the timeline. So I'll actually pull up a verse to kind of cite that here. Let's see if it's on this one. Believe it or not, I tried to have, there it is. I tried to have all the relevant verses prepared, and wouldn't you know it, I didn't have one ready. So I'll just find this real quick here. Okay, let's just read this here. So this is in Paul's letter to the Thessalonians, and it's what it's essentially telling you that the day of the Lord will not come as a surprise to those that are in light or in Christ and are watching. So I'll just read it here. I'll start from the top, actually, or more or less the top. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. But ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that that day should overtake you as a thief. Ye are all the children of light, and the children of the day. We are not of the night, nor of darkness. Therefore let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch and be sober. For they that sleep, sleep in the night, And they that be drunk are drunken in the night. But let us who are of the day be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and love, and for an helmet the hope of salvation. For God hath not appointed us to wrath, but to obtain salvation by our Lord Jesus Christ. So there's two things that's being said here. So the first one from the bottom is God hath not appointed us to wrath. This kind of puts to rest any beliefs of post-trib or mid-trib believers that believe that we're not going to depart until the end, or which doesn't make sense at all. I'll cover that in another video. Or the midpoint of the tribulation. God hath not appointed us to wrath. We are not going to be here for the tribulation. And the other part here, which is the kind of most of this passage here, is that we are the people who are watching, the true believers. We see everything that's going on. We see through the evilness. We see how twisted the world is, and we can see their plans as they're coming. And that's exactly what is being talked about here. Like the people who are going to be able to discern this, the Christians, are the ones who are walking in light. They see the evil deeds coming, and they know when it's coming, more or less. Obviously, that's a big part of the channels. No one knows the day particularly yet, but I think it's in time. None of this is going to come as or especially this right here, sudden destruction, is going to come as a surprise to us. I think as time progresses, we'll know more and more exactly how close we are, and I like to think that even as that day comes, it will not surprise us, because that's essentially what it says here. I don't think that is going to come as any sort of surprise. It's going to come as a surprise to 99.99% of the world, but not to us. So I think for Christians that take the time to analyze this sort of stuff, it's not in any way ignoring the gospel. In fact, it works hand in hand, as I'll show you throughout this video here. So right here we're going to look at, this is one of the very first scenes in iPet Goat 2. I'll just play a little bit of the scene here, just so you get a gist of what's happening. Well, I don't have the sound on, but we don't really need the sound for this part. But this is the very first scene, and in the background there's an absolute ton of stuff written on the boards, on the wall, and I'm going to decode just a little bit of this, because this will be hopefully one of my shorter videos. I made a note at the end. I have a list of notes just to go over to end the video sooner than usual, so we'll try and do that, but I'll just discern a few things on this board here, which is going to point us to this particular point in time, which is February to March, and I'll show that even the dates that are pointing outside of it, particularly January and March, are still in a way pointing to February. So if you follow the Exalted Lamb one, he's currently looking at February 23rd, which is, I think, just a few days, as the kind of first attack day, or when these events start to kick off. Because, as I mentioned earlier, I think as we get closer, it's going to become more and more obvious where we are in the timeline, approaching the tribulation. I think that we're going to start to see, we've seen a lot of things progress, like there's like the record-setting hurricanes, the earthquake, the war in Israel, talking about dividing Israel. I could just go on, but believers who read the gospel and read the Old Testament know exactly where we are and how close we are. But I think there's some things in this video which will show us just how close we are. So the first thing I'll cover is, I'll just kind of work from right to left, do that a little systematically. So up on this top right here we have, I could try and find the spot where you're going to see all that. Yeah, there's 3 hearts here. So I have to imagine this is pointing to Valentine's Day, as there's like plenty of hearts throughout the rest of the video. If you watch the video, again, it's called iPet Goat 2. You could find it on YouTube. It's by Heliofont. You can find, now I gotta find that one scene again here. I'm just gonna leave it here once I get back. Okay. But yeah, you have the 3 hearts up there. I think that's in essence pointing to Valentine's Day, which is obviously February 14th. And then moving from right to left here, we have this heart down here, which it looks like there's like kind of like 2 people within here. Like I don't really know anatomy too well, so I don't know how accurate this is of like a representation of the heart. But if you look, let's go to Heart Month. February is Heart Month in the United States and Canada. time to raise awareness about cardiovascular health. So this right here, I believe, could essentially just be showing February. So moving across here, we have this kind of hangman going on here. I'll touch on this part next, but I'll cover this first here. So it's evol and then T and an N. And I'll pull up gematria here. Essentially supposed to be spelling evolution, but what they're kind of probably looking at here is 88 in the ordinal gematria. And if you study a lot of other symbolism, this comes up very, very frequently. You'll find this in Back to the Future, Donnie Darko. If you add up where the kind of bunny character tells him how long until the world ends, it adds up to 88. Trump with his text 88022. You'll find the 88 very, very frequently. So if you reduce the 88, as another commenter said, you'll just come up with 8. So you could pretty much have that kind of leeway, I guess, to move back and forth between these two dates. Or between the dates you'll see on the rest of the board in order to bracket in February 23rd. That's a little more complicated than we're going to cover in this video. The goal of this is essentially just to show you that we're looking at this like February to March timeline, particularly February. My bad, but this one right here, it's like looks like LOL, but really it's 101, and you'll see this in plenty of other symbolism, but I think what they're pointing to here is the new year in the Roman calendar. You'll see this with a lot of white rabbits and just kind of like New Year references and symbolism. So I'll go over to this calendar by Raw Repent here. So 101 would essentially on the old Roman calendar be right here. That's their new year. That occurs on March 15th to 16th on the Gregorian calendar. So the importance of that, there's a few other things that point to this. The March 15th is the Ides of March, where Julius Caesar was assassinated. As well, the New Year, I think, I'll just pull this up here actually. So at the end of Leave the World Behind, there's a reference to Commodus. And Commodus was a Roman Empire who was assassinated. I think he was killed by a wrestler, but I'll pull up him here. So we have Commodus. Let's go death. Yeah, he was killed on December 31st, 1902, assassinated by a wrestler. So they have that on the outside of the bunker at the end of Leave the World Behind. So that's kind of another reference to that 101 there being significant. So again, that places us in the March timeline. And then you have the dragon here, which I think is a reference to the Chinese Year of the Dragon. 2025. I think it ended on January 29th. Let's see if they got January on here. No. January 29th, 2025. Chinese Dragon. Concluding on January 28th, 2025. There we go. That's what I was looking for. So yeah, that takes us pretty well to February with that sort of reference. Then you have this here, which you got the lightning and the brain splitting. Another commenter mentioned how this could be a reference to World Thinking Day, which is February 22nd. World Thinking Day is celebrated annually on February 22nd. By Girl Guides, Girl Scouts around the world. It's day think about big issues and such. But yeah, this, and then you have the lightning down the middle. This could be kind of a reference to Satan, as the verse goes, I believe. I beheld Satan fall from lightning from heaven. I butchered that, but that's the essence of what I believe they're showing us here. Now I'll just move up to the hangman here. This I think is the most important because I recently watched the season 1 of American Gods, which the noose and the hanging is very prevalent in the first episode. There's I think 3 separate instances where they're showing you a noose or someone being hung. No one died, if you're wondering, but yeah, that's the reference there, and that is to the month of Adar, which is the 12th month on the Jewish calendar, and the 13th is when the 10 sons of is it Hamas? Let's go to the this one. I do have a reference for here, so uh, I'm not. You'll have to pardon my what's that? You'll have to pardon my knowledge of the Old Testament. I'm not too up to date on the historical books of the Old Testament, but I'll just read this here from Esther. This is when the sons of Hadar, is it Hadar? Haman, the 10th, sorry, I'm really messing with my credibility here by mispronouncing these names, but you'll have to trust me on this one. So, Esther chapter 9, now in the 12th month, that is, the month Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near, to be put in execution, in a day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though it was turned to the contrary, that the Jews had rule over them that hated them. So the Jews won in this case. And if we go down here to Esther 9:14, and the king commanded it so to be done, and the decree was given at Shushan, and they hanged Haman's 10 sons. So these people were already dead, but they hung them up as a kind of message or symbolism. But if we go to this calendar here, which is early to late March, in the rabbinical, we have the 12th month, Adar, and then the 13th day. This lines up with 313. Remember that. I'll just write this down for myself so I make sure to go over this. But yeah, that's in reference to 313. So the importance of this, I'll cover this now before I forget. But in a lot of the symbolism, what could be being referenced is not in fact like the very date that's being referenced, but the remainder of the days left in the number of the day that is in that year, or the days left in that year. So just for example, we'll go to days left in the year, and 313 would have been Adar 13, but it's not. That is February 21st, which is closer to World Thinking Day. So even though they're referencing that month of Adar and the 13th day, which would be March 13th, it still in fact could be referencing the 21st or around this area. So even though you see dates that are like very spread out, like the 29th of January and then like early March here, it still could be in essence referencing the same date, which again, this is kind of like you'll read in Daniel, like the message will be revealed in time, or you'll learn it as it goes along. Obviously, I don't have all the answers right now, but yeah, I'll just move on to the remainder of stuff here. So we got this kind of shark here. Now this could be referencing a couple different things. The first thing I believe it's referencing is I think there was a brand new Russian submarine, which was a nuclear submarine, which was commissioned and deployed just after the new year this year. So, and it was called, I'm not going to say the Russian name, but essentially it was called the Shark. So this is what could be referenced here as well. It could be referencing the sign of Jonah, which is like the 3 days, 3 nights of darkness. So that is like with the large fish, because in the book of Jonah, it's not specified that it's a whale. It's just kind of through pop culture or like historical references, they think it is a whale, but the shark could essentially reference the same thing. Down here, I'll admit I don't even know what this is referencing here. I could pull up the gematria and someone smarter than me could figure it out, but it is as above, so below. I think I can do Newton's law. Let's go. As above, so below, Isaac Newton. But rather... Okay, I'll just stay away from that because I don't really know that, but I'll pull up the gematria of it here. And it comes up in a reverse as 222. So this is you'll see this in plenty of things. If you follow, I think his name is Joseph Acquaviva, he has just this in spades, like with the decoding gematria phrases. That's probably the most common deduction that comes up in pretty well everything associated with this kind of area. So that's the importance of that. That doesn't particularly place anything with our date, but yeah, that's what that essentially means. And over here you have the burning house, which uh, I thought this could reference a couple things. There was like a news article that came out just as Biden was leaving office. They said, in quotations, he was burning down the house as he left. So I thought, like, oh, there's that reference to that burning house. But as well, this could be the Los Angeles fires, which continued for just like unusual amount of time. So that really could be what's being referenced there as well. And yeah, that's pretty well all I wanted to decode from this. I'll show a little extra here, just in case you got that up there. To be honest, I don't know what's being referenced here. It does look like a missile, and then there's obviously like the number three that's being referenced. So that could be three separate attacks. It's difficult to say. That's definitely more obscure. The time will tell on that one. But over here, I think on a Mark Allison video, he kind of decoded essentially what's going on here. You have these pins on a map of the United States. This one's New York City here. This is New Orleans. Off in the middle of what's now the Gulf of America, I guess. I think that's that area. And over here, just above Texas, someone better with geography could tell me what that is here. But I think having the owl over the New York area is kind of telling you what timeline you're going to have this like big event occurring. So the owl probably showing like PM, and if we go out here, you'll see the clock at the top has. Let's try and get it. The art of trying to stop this at the right point. My goodness. Oh, it was up there. Okay, it's very fuzzy, but you can see it's at midnight, and you can take my word for it that it's at noon or midnight. I do recall definitely they show that more clearly than I'm finding here. Oh, is that it? No. And there goes me trying to make this video shorter. Okay, I'm just gonna play this through. We're gonna try and find this. So another point here, just before I go, is the layers in this video are just insane. Like here we have a K and we have an S on his eyebrows. There could be something else here, but then K, you'll take the numerical value of that, which I don't want to count the alphabet out here. But then the S, and then you have like what number in the alphabet is that, and you can discern different dates from compressing and decompressing these numbers. The Exalted Lamb 1 does that incredibly well, so check out his videos. He's much better than me at that. There we go. I knew I did it. So yeah, we got the midnight here. So what could be shown here is this event is going to occur at midnight over the mountain time, or whatever it's called, New York time zone here. And then we have this kind of evolution chart here with 6 stages, and then a 7th with this guy's got a gun, and looks like someone's having a bad time here from that. And this, I'll let you guys figure out who I think this is. But yeah, 7. So you got essentially like the days of the week here. There's a piece of tape here. Now we're decoding things I didn't intend to decode at the start of this, but yeah, that's I'm not too sure on that one. There's never a shortage of things to decode in this video, that's for sure. But yeah, there is just one more thing I wanted to cover just before I end this video here. Is, oh shoot, I just pressed this, knocked over my tea here, a little into my dog. He's all right. Okay, I'll leave that in. But yeah, so there is a large Christian community which believes that I'll pull up I'll have to go clean my dog in a sec, so I'll have actually a reason to end this video earlier. But we have the fall Jewish feasts here. So we have the spring feasts, which Christ fulfilled all of these in his first coming. I'm not going to delve into that in this video, but Passover was his sacrifice, and then you have the fall feasts, which were unfulfilled here. So Feast of Trumpets, Rosh Hashanah. This is when our eclipse occurred that we've been looking at in the past 4 videos. The Day of Atonement, and then Tabernacles. So since Christ fulfilled all 4 of these in his first coming, it's reason to believe that he's fulfilling these three in his second coming. So trumpets is generally in the fall. This year, I believe it's September 22nd. Let's, let's look that up. Feast of Trumpets 2025. September 22nd to 24. So essentially begins on the 22nd. So that would be a reason to look at that second blood moon in September because a lot of people believe that trumpets is when the rapture will occur. However, I'm kind of out to the jury is out on this one, but I'm leaning towards these not being fulfilled until his actual second coming, which will be towards the end of tribulation. So, for instance, you could have trumpets, which would be Christ's arrival when he touches down on earth on the I think it's the Mount of Olives where he's coming back. Uh, you have the Feast of Atonement, which could be conquering the evil that exists on the world, and then Tabernacles could be ushering in the millennial reign and Christ's rule. So that's just I'm kind of like spitballing on what these. There's people who study this way more than I do, but in essence, I don't think that this is going to be fulfilled with the rapture. I think all of these events are going to be fulfilled at the second coming, because the second coming is very very important. So I think all of those are going to be encompassed with that in a very short period because Christ fulfilled all of these Passover to Pentecost in a very short period. So it gives reason to believe that trumpets to tabernacles will occur in a very short period as well in that order. So that's pretty much all I wanted to look at in this video. There's one more thing I will look at because essentially the topic of this video was to give reason why to look at this first blood moon in March, even earlier than that, to look at these evil events beginning in I think they're going to begin in February if I'm being honest. So now we're going to look at the creator of iPad Go 2, Louis Faber. He's French, but yeah. So his last name literally means like the February, essentially. So I think with everything that's going on right now and everything that we're being shown, I think that the some of the big events that we're going to see are going to occur in February. Uh, for instance, I don't think I actually touched on this, but yeah, or I did. But if we look at the month, if we look at Adar, which would be the day of Adar, that's still, if we look at it as the days left in the year instead of the actual date, we're still in February. So I think in some way all of these events will still point to February. But yeah, that's the topic I wanted to cover in this video. In the next video, I'm going to be going over more of a timeline as I see these events unfolding, and I'll talk about how I believe I was wrong in the video previous to this. Specifically, just for how I discerned Second Thessalonians chapter 2. I actually last night I went back and I reread Second Thessalonians just to see if I was right, and I don't think I was on some certain points. So I'm just gonna kind of correct myself and kind of show a more kind of ironed out timeline of how I see these events unfolding. But yeah, thank you for tuning in to video 5, and hopefully see you on the next one. God bless. Share, subscribe, and tell your friends. Take care.